Now, Action 7 News live at 6. Coverage you can count on.
Chaos at a place that is supposed to be tranquil and sacred. Tonight we are learning more about what happened at an Albuquerque church when a man stabbed several members of the choir during Sunday Mass.
We also know a lot more about the man at the center of the investigation, 24-year-old Lawrence Kapner. He told police he thought the devil was sending a message through church microphones. We have multiple reporters working every angle of this story. Team coverage tonight in a case that is making headlines across the country.
We begin with Melissa Colorado, who was in court today and at the suspect's house. She is live at St. Jude Thaddeus Church.
And Doug and Shelley, the big question on everyone's mind right now, was Lawrence Kapner ever diagnosed with a mental illness? At this point, we do not know. However, according to the criminal complaint, he told detectives that the reason why he targeted that choir director was because he was part of some Mason group, part of some kind of conspiracy against the church. We reached out to the Kapner family. Their message to viewers watching at home right now: please pray for us. This morning, Action 7 News knocked on the home of alleged stabber Lawrence Kapner. Are you related to the family?
Yes, for your prayers, thank you.
A God-fearing family in shock. Neighbors tell us the 24-year-old lived with his mother in this northwest Albuquerque neighborhood.
I just felt so bad for him because he's always been really nice to us.
Mercedes Reynolds lives next door. She says Kapner was always respectful and took care of her dogs when she was out of town.
I can't believe he's done anything like that.
APS confirms Kapner graduated from Cibola High School in 2007. We reached out to a former classmate and one of Kapner's friends. That friend did not want to go on camera for fear that he would be associated with the suspect. He told us, quote, "What Lawrence did was disgusting."
The public shouldn't come to a conclusion because of all the publicity it's getting. I think they need to stop and think and pray for their guidance and for the people that were injured.
Kapner worked for several months at this Dollar Tree on Coors. A manager here who did not want to go on camera says Kapner was fired 2 months ago for threatening to gouge out his boss's eyes.
You could tell there was something not right about him, you know, something like he was just waiting to explode, really.
Now, we should note that the suspect's mother, Shirley Kapner, is a Eucharist minister here at the church. It's unclear if she will be returning to the church this coming Sunday. We're live in Northwest Albuquerque. I'm Melissa Colorado, KOAT, Action 7 News.
Right now, a healing service is being held at the church where the stabbing happened. Action 7 News reporter Laura Terrain is there. She continues our live team coverage.
And that service has just begun. We just heard church bells chiming. And beforehand, I spoke to the priest who will be leading that service. He tells me that yesterday's stabbing, will be addressed throughout, but particularly during the sermon when he'll speak about persevering through a difficult time. And speaking of recovery, I spoke to the church's choir master, Adam Alvarez. He was the first person attacked in yesterday's stabbing. He called me from the hospital and told me just how bad his injuries are.
He stabbed me 4 times. He sliced once down my bicep, and then he sliced my wrist, and then he hit me again in the bicep further up, and then stabbed me in the back.
And again, that was Adam Alvarez. Now, he tells me that surgeons say he will regain full use of his arm with therapy. Now, attending yesterday's mass were several off-duty public safety personnel who jumped in and were able to take down the suspect.
Right.
My colleague Tanya Mendez here, she has the rest of that story.
Yeah, Laura, I talked to 2 of those officers today, one from APD and the other from the Department of Corrections. Both are regulars here at the church. I told them a lot of people are calling them heroes today. They said they're just doing their job.
As a police officer, you're always on.
But sitting in the pews at Mass?
I'm like quiet here. Never thought it was going to happen at church.
But as Mass was coming to a close, duty called.
Observed a subject come by the altar.
Suddenly that individual decided to jump over a couple of pews.
All of a sudden he bolted for the choir.
They saw Lawrence Kapner attacking the choir.
My wife told me, like, go, go.
Department of Corrections Sergeant Gilbert Flores and APD Officer Darren Diaguero sprang into action.
I ran from all the way from the back of the church up to the front. By the time I got to the front, I just seen blood.
APD sent us this picture of the bloody knife Kapner was wielding. The cops teamed up with the help of other off-duty first responders in the crowd.
There's a lot of people holding him down.
One of the firefighters trying to help wound up sliced in the attack. Instinct and training kicked in for the cops. They got Kapner under control, grabbing his arm, getting the knife away from him, holding him down until officers arrived. The scene was pure chaos, but for these brave guys, all in a day's work.
You don't think of yourself at the time.
I don't consider it being a hero. It's just doing my job.
And another person who was instrumental yesterday was Albuquerque Fire Department Lieutenant Greg Aragon. He was actually stabbed while trying to help. The fire department released a statement saying they were extremely proud of the lieutenant, calling him heroic and saying he saved lives. And that's certainly the case for all of the people who stepped up. Reporting live at St. Jude Thaddeus, I'm Tanya Mendes, KOAT, Action 7 News.
For the latest developments on the church stabbing and continuing coverage you can count on, stay tuned to Action 7 News and KOAT.com. A man admits to sexually assaulting his own granddaughter years ago when she was a little girl. And considering this man was constantly around kids, the victim fears there are more like her. Action 7 News reporter Alana Grimstad is live with a story you'll see only on 7.
Good evening. Now, if this case had gone to trial, Edward Quintana could have been facing up to 18 years in prison. But since he accepted the plea, he is now facing up to 3 years in prison or just probation. When we spoke with the victim, she says she doesn't want to sit down and talk with us once the entire case is over, but she is comfortable with us speaking today with her father, knowing that that would reveal her identity. A family divided, a courtroom divided.
I'm still in shock.
Michael Quintana sat in court as his own father admitted to sexually molesting his daughter.
My daughter is still in pain.
It happened when she was just a little girl almost 20 years ago.
He destroyed those little children's lives.
Monday morning, Edward Quintana pled guilty to the sex abuse charges against his granddaughter. Years ago, he and his wife ran a daycare center out of their Las Vegas home, and Quintana has previously pled guilty to inappropriately touching 2 young sisters who came to his daycare back then as well.
My father is mentally ill. My father is sick. He needs some type of help.
Quintana told the judge he was only admitting to these charges for his wife and Social Security checks, which his lawyer later explained will stop if he gets locked up. But Quintana's son doesn't buy that.
He knew in his heart that he molested those children.
Now the entire Quintana family, both those supporting their dad and those supporting the victim, wait to find out if Edward Quintana gets sentenced to probation or prison.
I will forgive my father for what he did in the name of Jesus, but we need to have justice and we need to leave it on God's hands.
Until Quintana is sentenced, he's on house arrest, which means he cannot leave his house unless for things like a doctor's appointment or a meeting with his attorney. He's also on GPS monitoring. Reporting live in Santa Fe tonight, Alana Grimstad, KOAT, Action 7 News.
Quintana's attorney says he's going to push for probation time only. The victim says she hopes he gets the max, 3 years in prison. Quintana was sentenced to probation for the previous cases.
On the fire alert, Sky 7 flew over a fire burning on Sandia Pueblo this afternoon. It sparked a lot of fears from people who called into Action 7 News, but it was a prescribed burn. Then minutes later, another quick-moving blaze, this one in Bernalillo on Edith near 313. It started in a mobile home, moved through the trees, and then caught another mobile home on fire. Today's heat combined with bone-dry conditions worried firefighters, but they got them under control, and they are now investigating the cause. A New Mexico man busted charged with downloading child porn. Deputies in Silver City say Brian Jamison was charged with 68 counts of sexual exploitation of children. Las Cruces Sun News reports he was picked up Friday. Investigators say Jamison used 2 usernames to download child porn on his home computer. Jamison told officers the child porn must have gotten mixed in with his adult pornography downloads. Police arrest a man in northeast Albuquerque for shooting his neighbor over a lost Chihuahua. But now both men say there's no dog in this fight. Action 7 News reporter Liz McKernan is here to explain.
Well, Shelley, according to court documents, 23-year-old John Pohl told police he'd been drinking when he thought someone had stolen his Chihuahua. So he got his gun and started to search for the pup. Police say this is a pet owner who was on a mission. Court documents stating John Pohl went door to door in his neighborhood armed with a gun looking for his Chihuahua. When one of his neighbors tried to take the gun away, he pulled the trigger. Firearms? On Monday, he paid a very different visit to a judge.
Did you shoot your neighbor? Did you mean to shoot your neighbor?
When we tried to ask the 23-year-old about the charges, he had nothing to say, but his alleged victim did have something he wanted to get off his chest. We spoke with the victim who was shot in the shoulder. He did not want to be seen or heard on camera, but he did tell us that there are no hard feelings, that it was just a simple mistake. After the shooting, the dog owner found his canine companion right at home.
The media has misportrayed this. So everything will flesh out as we go forward.
Pohl's attorney telling us the armed encounter didn't have any teeth to put his client behind bars.
Now, Pohl's alleged victim also sent a letter to the judge that claimed it was all just a mistake.
According to court records, Pohl has been arrested several times but never convicted of any crime in New Mexico.
An organization helping low-income families build houses is the target of a crime in Santa Fe. Police say a man broke into a Habitat for Humanity home and stole 500 feet of copper wiring, which is worth about $500. There weren't any locks on the door because it's still under construction. The wiring has been replaced, but it is a financial hit for the organization.
And Habitat for Humanity does such a good service for the community of Santa Fe, by offering these homes to people that can't afford them. So it's really sad that someone would steal from an organization like this.
Police say a neighbor describes the burglar as a Hispanic male with spiked hair, wearing baggy jeans and a green shirt. If you have any idea who did this, call police. It's an age-old controversy with brand new developments. Target 7's Lauren Zacalic is taking us to the Mexican border to bring us up to date with a situation that has plagued our state's finances for decades.
For people living in the metro, the Mexican border may feel like a lifetime away with no impact on your life. But we discovered something that was happening down here at the border that was impacting every single New Mexico taxpayer. Pregnant Mexican nationals were coming here to the border in labor, and ambulances from New Mexico were forced to take the women to New Mexico hospitals where they then give birth. And taxpayers were on the hook for the entire cost.
Unless that patient is paying, then it's essentially a loss written off by both the ambulance service and the hospital.
But something has changed that is drastically reducing the flow of border babies into New Mexico. I'm Target 7's Lauren Zacalic. I'll have that special investigation from the border coming up.
And be sure to watch KOAT tonight for that special Target 7 report. Details on Action 7 News live at 10.
It was a nasty breakup in the sports world.
It's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being a arrogant jerk.
Up next, the scoop on Brian Urlacher's breakup with the Bears.
And will the football program at New Mexico State continue? Some possible changes are being discussed.
Here in Albuquerque, we're 3 degrees shy from record heat today, but I tell you what, some sharp changes ahead with strong winds and plunging temps. First look forecast coming up.